1 2 mic check. Good morning, everybody. This is Bomani Arma. Just waking up. Well, not just waking up. I've been up for a couple of hours, but just getting ready to get out the door. Rocking the Grindstone t-shirt. Always rocking the Grindstone t-shirt. Shout out to Grindstone. It is a beautiful day. The morning has already got off to a great start. It is Friday, February the 3rd. Just checking on the day because they're all starting to blur together. Thank y'all very much for everybody who came out and was really supportive of our Mix and Master event on Wednesday. I apologize that I've been late giving you guys an update. If you were at the event, please feel free to tag me in some video or some photo that you have. We're going to post the professional photos from it soon. You can find it on your phone right now at mixandmasterradio.com. Unfortunately, it's not working on desktops right now. I'm on the line with the people at my web provider trying to figure out why that is. You can still find the podcast on SoundCloud, though. If you go to SoundCloud and look up Mix and Master Radio. But if you're on your phone, you can go to Mix and Master Radio. Also, in the next few moments, it's about 60% uploaded. I'm going to be uploading the latest edition of the Baba Bomani Show. This is my interview with Ariana Ross of Story Tapestries. Had a great conversation with her, just further talking about this new situation that is happening in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, where art integration is becoming an integral part in every child's education. This organization is one of many organizations that is a huge part of that, and we had a great interview talking about those things. I haven't done a morning update in about 4 days. I apologize. By the time I've been getting up recently, I have to get out the door, get to this hustle. And, you know, that's not a problem at all, but I apologize because I definitely want to stay updated with my friends and family here on Facebook. Working on moving this entire platform somewhere else very soon, but I wanted to perfect my use of it here. There are a lot of things going on in the news. I've been trying to keep a small tab on it. You know what I'm saying? I got to be updated as what's going on. But I want to respond to something that my friend Mazi asked me a couple of days ago on one of my updates. And that's when I said that I don't protest, that I understand protesting and that I appreciate the people who do, but I personally don't do any of the marches. And I'm not making this post to discourage anyone. But I am wondering out loud, and I've written this before last year. As a matter of fact, I'm going to post the link to what I wrote. I've written before last year to make sure that we know exactly what we're marching for. Let me post this, as a matter of fact, in the comments right here. We got to make sure we know exactly what we're marching for. Sometimes, and I blame Black History Month for this, sometimes we just know that we're supposed to march, and after we march, the problem is supposed to end. And that's not really how it works. There's a lot of strategy involved. There's a lot of gamesmanship involved. You have to know what your opponent is willing to lose, willing to give up. You have to know that your opponent has shame, that your opponent has enemies or allies that you're able to shame them in front of. And then lastly, like, you're asking them politely to integrate you into something when and this is where it gets sticky for me. Like, I realize that I live a relatively comfortable life. I live here in the Washington, D.C. metro area, and I am a product of the marches that happened in the 50s and 60s. There's no doubt about it. The level of freedom we have here, the level of home rule that happened in Washington, D.C. I mean, Marion Barry was a student of the Civil Rights Movement. He was active in the Civil Rights Movement. And so, like, the idea that I haven't gotten something from it would be erroneous, would be a lie. But what we are doing is we are protesting, trying to get something that is inherently made to keep us down to be slightly better. And that is a long, long game. And the end result is the powers that brought us here under slavery and have exploited us from day one will be strengthened by our integration into their system. And we will take their system and their understanding and the way they operate in the world and project that onto everyone else. And that's not what I want. Like, I don't want to be a good American. I'm okay with maybe being an American if America is completely changed from its original ideas and its original plot and its original scheme. And I'm not talking about the words that was written in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. I don't take the words in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence as the principles of America. I take America's actions as the principle of America. What's up, Joel? Joella? Hey, how are you? I take what this country actually did as its principles. This country is not does not believe that every man is created equal. This country is not made for the immigrant. Is not made for the working class. If you look at history, very very early, even George Washington went out of their way to defeat the working class, to run the working class against other races and stuff like that. So knowing that that's the end result of us protesting is us being completely integrated into this system and letting them know that we too can be a part of this system. It doesn't seem to be my end goal. Like, I don't want to be a part of this system. All right. I want a completely new system. I believe that system is possible to be created peacefully. It might have to be defended violently, but I think it can be created peacefully. But I don't believe that we can renovate this house. This house is already built on sand, and renovating it doesn't seem like the thing to do, right? The other thing is, protests, especially at this point, especially post 60s, 50s, 60s protests have become political theater. Like, you get permits for protests now. You know what I'm saying? Like, what Martin Luther King Jr. was doing, what John Lewis was doing, was marching without permission, was marching specifically under the threat of being beaten for it, of being attacked by the police for it, in an attempt to bring media attention to our plight. The reason to bring media attention is to embarrass us in front of the world in the middle of the Cold War, where we're supposed to be the people where the United States is supposed to be standing up for freedom and liberty. The idea was we're embarrassing the United States in front of the rest of the world because we can't lead in freedom if we aren't ourselves free. All right. And so that's a whole different dynamic that was happening at the time. And we had an embarrassable president. We had an embarrassable country, and we had a huge bloc, the USSR, that we were trying to fight Africa and South America and Europe and Asia. Everybody was trying to decide which side were they going to go with the capitalist or with the communist. And we were trying to prove, the United States was trying to prove itself more righteous. And that's one of the main reasons the civil rights movement worked. Dr. King took advantage of this attempt to look righteous and made America look bad, right? So now what is happening are two things. One, we're marching and we're getting permits, and we're doing it with permission, and we're marching down the street, and we're feeling really, really good about that, but we're not disturbing what's going on. All right, we're not messing up the current cycle. And in order to protest, that's exactly what a protest is for. That's what the Boston Tea Party was about. That's what the Boston Massacre was about. We talk all this stuff about polite protest, but this country was founded on throwing rocks at people with guns. That was the Boston Massacre. I just came from having this long conversation with fifth graders 3 weeks ago, and that's the reality of the situation that we found ourselves in if you consider yourself an American and a patriot. And so the idea that we're doing peaceful, planned out, permitted protest, it just gives everybody the feeling that they're doing something that Dr. King did, or that they're doing something that previous generations did. And you're not. You're being a part of a march. You're being part of a parade without the floats. All right. And so that part doesn't work. And the other thing is, it's become such a part of political theater that it doesn't have the effect on the audience that you want anymore. And now your political enemies are infiltrating these protests with anarchists and people just paid to fuck shit up. All right. Y'all see this happen at Irvine. You see Irvine, I believe, or was it Berkeley? Over the weekend, where they had this protest over a right-wing alt-right speaker that came to speak on campus. The students actually on campus set up an area where they can all come out and protest, bring their signs, scream as loud as they want to, do their chants. But then 150 or so people dressed in black came through and started destroying the campus, started destroying the site where the man was speaking. And Fox News and other news sources aren't taking the time to distinguish the two different parties, the students who protested and these anarchists who possibly are anarchists who are just doing it for the violence, the theater of political violence, and who also might be paid interlopers. Like, that happens. We know this happens for a fact. And so now the entire object of the protest is being blurred, and no one actually gets the message. All right. Either you're saying these rowdy thugs, or you're saying, oh, that's cute, go ahead, let them have their parade without floats. And Now, part of me completely understands that I'm not going to convince anybody not to protest, and part of me completely understands that I'm still benefiting in a way from protests. Protests keep the foot off the neck of everybody else. You know what I'm saying? You distract the oppressor, you make them pay attention to these issues, which sometimes slows up their progress. And I appreciate that because I need as much space as I can get, because I believe the real way that we do this is we educate our way out of this situation. The problem with saying you educate your way out of the situation is it's not an immediate success. As a matter of fact, it's a success you might not live to see. You know, that's one of my major themes, like thinking generationally. But the problem is, and I remember having this conversation with Professor Griff. He told me I should be careful quoting him because I might get myself in trouble letting people know that I associate with him. But he happened to be in my studio the night that Baltimore went up, during that uprising after the Freddie Gray incident. And I asked him what he thought. I was watching video clips of the NOI, like stopping brothers from wrecking all these shops. And I asked him what he thought of that. Did that make him feel empowered? Did he feel good watching those brothers, you know, trying to stand up for their community? And he said, honestly, it's too late. Like, in the middle of the war is not the time that you sharpen your instruments. You sharpen your tools. You sharpen your swords and your knives. You got to do that before the battle happens. And that's what's going on with how our young people are reacting to all these different things that are happening. It's how we're reacting to police brutality. It's how we're reacting to Donald Trump. It's how we're going to react when we have a known racist, Sessions, come in, and he's going to institute stop and frisk across the board as far as possible. We are going to face that problem completely unaware of what's going on because we haven't had these conversations in our communities and in our classrooms beforehand. This is not part of our normal education. Social, political education is not part of our formal education. And so our young people do not know what they're doing. And our grown people don't know what they're doing because we don't actively have that conversation. And so that's what we got to start doing. And so this is what I'm imploring you to do. If you work with young people, you have to find some time in your curriculum. You got to get creative. You got to find a way to start talking about the history of social movements. You got to start talking about what we do in these situations, about your rights, about coming together as a community. If you coach football, if you coach soccer, if you coach basketball, if you're coaching a chess team, if you have some opportunity with young people and you're teaching them about strategy and perseverance and how to deal with everyday life, this has to be a part of the education. All right, we have to do that from the jump. I personally have my sons involved in homeschooling collectives that talk about this all day, every day, but I'm not expecting everyone to do this, okay? I am expecting you to find some moment in your day, if you're dealing with affecting and infecting the minds of young people, to find a way to have this conversation, okay? You can't just call them the day of the march like, look, this is what Dr. King did. Come march with me. Once we march, this whole problem will be solved. That, A, it doesn't work, and B, you're not giving them any more information, and you're not being, the 12-year-olds are ready to talk about this. The 10-year-olds are ready to talk about this. And we need to start talking to them about it now. So when they're 18, 19, and 20, and it happens again, when we eventually replace Trump with a lighter version of someone we like, is probably going to end up being a Democrat that's so far right of center that, you know, in 1996 we wouldn't have called them a Democrat, but that's going to happen. They're going to introduce another version of the '94 crime bill. They're going to introduce another version of crack. They're going to introduce another version of stop and frisk, and we're going to be having this same argument and these same conversations and these same protests over again because the next generation has not been prepared. Because in an attempt to hide them from the evils of the world, we don't discuss the evils of the world in our classrooms, in these actual environments when we can get them ready, where we can sharpen the tools before the battle. And that's really where my concentration is. I have no idea if what's happening under Donald Trump is going to get better or worse. I'm assuming it's going to get much, much worse, especially after Sessions becomes the secretary. What is it? He's becoming the attorney general. Now that Tillerson's in, it's crazy. You know what I'm saying? But there is nobody to embarrass America in front of right now. They don't care. Trump has no shame. And there's no large power, or the only large powers that exist, we are not worried about impressing them. So they're going to crunch down on us every time we protest. Our best bet is to take more strategic protest and start insulating our own circles and making sure that our local governments, our local municipalities are run by us and push out from that direction. But that doesn't happen with marches in the street. That happens with educating young people so they know that that's their role in society. So that's my rant. I went about 15 minutes today. I usually don't like going that long. I did get it before 6 o'clock. That was my other goal. So make sure you check me out, notarapper.com. Love y'all. Stay motivated. Y'all have a good one. Peace.